Hello there. Go ahead, please open up your math notebook to the next available page, and at the top of that page, write the title of today's lesson, which is Round Fractions. So we already know what rounding is. It's when you find an answer that's around the exact answer, but not exactly the same. So like, if I said, let's say there were 738 people inside of a room, and you said, how many people are in that room? I might say about 700. So that's a round answer because it gives you the idea of how many people are in the room without telling you the exact number. And you can do that with fractions too. Today, we're taking fractions and we're rounding them either to 0, 1/2, or 1/2. We're just going to jump into some examples here. Let's say we have 1/8. Now, is 1/8 about 0? Is it about 1/2, or is it about 1/2? Now, when you see an equal sign that's with squiggly lines like this, it means about the same as. So is 1/8 about the same as 0, about the same as 1/2, or about the same as 1/2? So if you had a pizza cut into 8 slices, this is one way you can think of it. It's cut into 8 slices, and you only have one of those slices. This is the only slice you have. All these are gone. Do you have if somebody called and said, how much pizza do you have left? I'm hungry and I'm coming over. Would you say, oh, dude, come on over. We have almost an entire pizza. Or would you say, oh, man, we have almost half a pizza. Or would you say, you might want to get some food before you get here because we have pretty much 0 pizza. I think if you had one slice left, you'd say that's about 0. One other good way to show these visually is whatever the denominator is. Remember, in a fraction, we have a numerator and a denominator. And whatever the denominator is, that shows the whole amount, the whole group. So like for this pizza, it was all the slices of pizza before anybody ate any. And the numerator is the part you have left or the part that you're using. And there was only one piece of pizza left, so that's 1/8. A good way of showing it, though, is showing it long ways is just to use dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or circles. They're not really dots, they're circles. The reason I like circles is since they're extended linearly or long ways, it's really easy to see if they're closer to 0, closer to 1/2, or closer to 1/2. So let's say this was one bag of marbles. And let's say one of the 8 marbles is red, the rest are all white. So here's 0 marbles being white. Here's 1/2, or the entire bag of marbles being white. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side and 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side. So 1/2 of the marbles being white is right here. Now, are we closer to 0, closer to 1/2, or closer to 1? You can see we're closer to 0. So you put a 0 here. 1/8 is closer to 0. Let's do another example. Let's say we have 5/9. So rather than doing pizza, that's harder to see. Let's use the circle way. Now there's our denominator is 9, so we're going to do 9 circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Our numerator is 5, so we're going to color in 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 0 of the circles being colored in would be here. 1/2, or the entire group of circles being colored in, would be right here. 1/2 would be right at this center circle because it has 4 on this side of it and 4 on this side of it, and then the 1 in the middle makes 9. 4 plus 4 plus 1 is 9. So is 5/9 closer to 1/2? Or is it closer to 0? Actually, I'm going to start that over. Is 5/9 closer to 0? Is it closer to 1/2? Or is it closer to 1? And you can see it's much closer to 1/2, isn't it? Even though it's technically above 1/2, because half of the marbles would be this much. I'm sorry, half of the marbles would be this much, 4, and then half of the center marble, that would be exactly half of the marbles, 4.5 marbles. It's half a marble more than half, but it's still much closer to half than it is to either of the other options. So we'd say 5/9 is closer to 1/2. Okay, let's do another example together. Let's do 7/8. Okay, now let's do the circle, or we could say these are marbles maybe. There's 8. 8 is our denominator, so we do 8 total marbles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7 of them we will color in because the numerator is 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this would be 0 over here. This would be 0 of the marbles colored in. This would be if all the marbles were colored in. And since this is an even number, the halfway point is right between 4 on this side and 4 on this side. So this would be 1/2 of the marbles colored in. So is the amount of marbles that are red closer to 0 of them being red, closer to 1/2 of them being red, or is it closer to 1 whole or all of the marbles being red? Closer to 1 whole. So we would say 7/8 is about 1 whole. Let's do another example. Let's say we had 3/7. Okay. Again, our denominator is 7, so we'll make 7 marbles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm scooting it over to the right more this time, so I have more room to write either about the same as 0, about the same as 1/2, or about the same as 1 right here. 7 is our denominator, so we make 7 marbles. 3 of them, 3 is our numerator, so we'll color in 3 of them red. Now, 0 of them being red would be over here. All of them being red would be over here. And 7 is not an even number, so there's not an even number of marbles on each side of half, but 1/2 would be right here, halfway between this center marble. So now we can see, is 3 marbles closer to 0? Is it closer to 1/2, or is it closer to 1? We can see it's only half a marble short of being 1/2 of all the marbles. So it's definitely closer to 1/2. So we could say 3/7 is about the same as 1/2. Let's do another one. Let's do 5/11. Okay, 5/11. So 11 is the denominator. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Since 5 is our numerator, we'll color in 5 of them red. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now since this is 11, it doesn't have an even amount of marbles on each side of the center. But we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. So halfway is halfway between this center marble. So that's halfway. 0 marbles being colored in over here. Half the marbles being colored in would be going right through this marble, and all of the marbles being colored in, or the whole amount, 1 whole of the marbles being colored in, would be over here. So is 5/11 closer to 0, closer to 1/2, or closer to 1? We can see it's only half a marble away from being 1/2 of the total amount of marbles. So 5/11 is about the same as 1/2. I'm going to turn my paper over now and do a few more examples with you. Let's do 4/5. Now, some of you are probably getting the hang of this to where you can tell if the fractions are closer to 0, closer to a half, or closer to 1 without drawing the picture, and that's great. But we're going to continue drawing the pictures anyways. We have 5 as our denominator, so let's make 5 marbles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 of them will be colored in because 4 is our numerator. So where would the halfway point be? It would be right here, because halfway would be exactly halfway between this center marble. 0 of the marbles being colored in would be here, and all of the marbles, or the whole bunch of the marbles, that's one whole, all of them taken as a whole together being colored in would be right here. So is 4/5 closer to 0? Is it closer to 1/2? Or is it closer to 1? We could say 4/5 of the marbles being colored in is a lot closer to all the marbles being colored in than it is to 0 of the marbles being colored in. And it's closer to all the marbles being colored in than it is to half of the marbles being colored in too. So we would say it's about 1 whole. It's only 1 away from all the marbles being colored in. Whereas it's 1.5 away from having only half the marbles colored in. Let's do another one. Let's say we had 1/9. I didn't already do that one, did I? No, let's do 1/9. So 9 is our denominator. So we make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 marbles. Only one of them is colored in. And so since 9 is not an even number, the halfway point is here with this center marble. There's 4 marbles on this side of it and 4 marbles on this side of it. So 1 out of the 9 is colored in. 0 out of the 9 being colored in would be here, and 1 whole, or the whole bunch of the marbles being colored in, would be over here. So, excuse me, is 1/9 closer to 0, closer to a half, or closer to 1? I think you can see that it's a lot closer to 0 than it is to 1/2, and definitely closer to 0 than it is to 1 whole. So we would say 1/9 is about 0. I'll assign the independent work now. Do 6/7, do 2/5, and do 3/8. Go ahead and round these 3 fractions either to 0, 1/2, or 1, and then click on the video attached underneath this one to see if you did it correctly. I will see you there. Signing off.